Another sunny day and another day for a camera comparison between the Huawei P60 Pro against the Xiaomi 13 Pro. Both feature a triple lens setup, triple 50 megapixel on the Xiaomi 13 Pro with the 1-inch size sensor as a highlight, and we have the variable aperture main camera sensor 48 megapixel on the P60 Pro, as well as the 48 megapixel telezoom camera with macro functionality, the same that the Xiaomi 13 Pro has. And then we have an ultra wide angle as well, and of course we have some front facing cameras there. You can see the specs as well, and I think we should start off with the front facing video. The front-facing video on the Xiaomi 13 Pro is limited to 1080p, 30 frames per second, and this is what you can get in terms of quality here. You can see that it is okay, but it's only 1080p, so no 4K recording on the 13 Pro, which is quite of a bummer, I would say. Also, we don't have any zoom levels here, so I cannot zoom out any further here if I want to show you more of my surrounding. So what do you think about this one here? Stabilization, HDR, and so on. You can see that sometimes it fluctuates when it comes to getting the exposure on my face as well. When it comes to shadows, when I go to the shadow or out of the shadow. So they have a little bit of issues there on the Xiaomi 13 Pro, but I think overall they fixed most of the issues that they had on the front-facing camera. Still, it is a little bit of a limited, front-facing camera. What do you think about this one here? The front-facing camera of the Huawei P60 Pro has 4K 60 frames per second, way better quality than the Xiaomi 13 Pro here. And we have even a zoom slider, so we have 0.8 time magnification. I can go to ultra wide angle where I can show you even a little bit more here. And we have good stabilization, good HDR, and you can see that when I go into the shadows or out of the shadows, there's not so much of a fluctuation in terms of like a brightness change and so on, which is quite okay. So it has a very good way of doing this. I can go even to 1-time zoom, which is roughly maybe a little bit more cropped in as on the 13 Pro, but it's very, very similar here. Good stabilization, good HDR. So what do you think about the Huawei P60 Pro? This is now the main highlight of the Xiaomi 13 Pro, the 1-inch type sensor, nice background blur, nice colors, nice HDR, nice stabilization. I think this is one of the best video cams currently on a smartphone. What do you think about this one here? 4K 30, I can record up to 8K if I want to, but my timeline is 4K, and of course I can switch between all the lenses here if I want to. So let's do this. Let's switch to the ultra wide angle just by sliding down here, and you can see I'm now at the ultra wide angle. What do you think about this one? Perfect for vlogging, I would say. We have also focusing, so if I hold something like a Xiaomi 13 Pro, so a Xiaomi 13 Ultra here, you can see the camera system there should be able to focus on this one. And then what we want to do is like we go here, and I will zoom in on the bridge there. There's also a ship coming, but we want to zoom in. We have a nice zoom here, 1 times, 3 times, it switch lenses, and we can go up to 15 times zoom. There you can see quite stable, and you can see some details there. So this is 15 times zoom on the Xiaomi 13 Pro. This is now 15 times zoom on the Huawei P60 Pro. So what do you think about this one? I have also a zoom slider here, so I can zoom out to roughly 10 times, where I would say this is the maximum that I would go there. Same as with the Xiaomi, maybe even a bit less. And I can zoom out, of course, to the 1-time lens. You can see at 4 times it switched lenses. And we are reaching now the 1-time lens, and this is now the 1-time lens. The 1-time lens has the possibility to switch the aperture, but by default it is using the f2 aperture, so this is what I'm using here right now as well. And I can record up to 4K 60 frames per second, but then I cannot switch to the ultra wide angle, which is quite of a bummer. What do you think about the colors here, HDR and stabilization? I think we have also nice background blur, but the one on the Xiaomi is a little bit more dramatic than this one here. But I can also show you how it will look like with the aperture wide open to f1.4, because this one will come very close to the one that the Xiaomi has with the 1-inch type sensor and f1.9. So what do you think about this one? And then of course we have also the ultra wide angle, 13 megapixels. We can go and zoom out here as well. So this is the ultra wide angle now, also perfect for vlogging. Also I can show you the Xiaomi 13 Ultra here as a close-up, because it also has autofocus, which is quite nice. So what do you think about this one here in terms of video? So here the photos on the left always the Xiaomi 13 Pro, on the right always the P60 Pro. Usually I do and take another extra walk and do some example shots for this. But yeah, now you get the raw shots from me that I usually don't share so much when I'm walking around this lake here, for example. This is the ultra wide angle with the Xiaomi 13 Pro, and here you can see the P60 Pro's zoomed up shot on my dog. So of course my dog is with us here as well. We start off with the native 3.2 times zoom on the Xiaomi 13 Pro and 3.5 times zoom on the P60 Pro to check out the detail levels here on those birds. As you can see here, very interesting. Bit of over sharpened, more sharpened and warmer look definitely on the P60 Pro, more realistic look on the Xiaomi 13 Pro because the water looked more like towards what the Xiaomi 13 Pro is capturing here. You can see it's a bit soft there towards the feathers, where the P60 Pro is like sharpening things up also around the head, but a very comparable 3.2 versus 3.5 times zoom for this kind of shots. Very comparable, and yeah, depends on your preference. Look at the background here, more realistic. I'm not sure what the P60 Pro decided here with the colors. It's a bit too much of a contrast here between those two and looks completely weird. When you come to 10 times zoom, the differences are still there, like a bit warmer colors on the P60 Pro, less warmer, more cooler colors on the 13 Pro for sure. But you can see that the 13 Pro is getting quite soft already, and we have a little bit of artifacts here, and it's smearing a bit, trying to get the details there that are simply not there. It's just simply optics that has a problem. And the P60 Pro has more details for sure. It has the better algorithms that keep the details in the shot. You can see it's also doing artificial sharpening for sure, but it's doing a bit of a better job than the Xiaomi 13 Pro in this regards. So when it comes to 10 times zoom, yeah, definitely I would prefer the P60 Pro to the Xiaomi 13 Pro when it comes to this. When it comes to macro, telemacro capabilities, I'm quite interested in this because it's one of the features on both, and I like the 13 Pro here better in this shot of those close-up flowers, because just the feeling that you get, it's a bit darker of an exposure here for sure. With the P60 Pro, more realistic maybe because the sun was out there, but this gives like so much more depth on the Xiaomi 13 Pro. And when I zoom in also, you can see the little details there, and this is quite nice. The P60 Pro also has all the details, but because of the less contrasty, more brighter kind of look, it's look at this here, this and this. It is a little bit like less competent in this regard. But then we have some other macro shots when it comes to bees, and there I prefer the P60 Pro by far. First of all, you can see the composition slightly changed, and we get much more background blur on the P60 Pro, which looks more DSLR or DSLM like. And then the second, on the Xiaomi 13 Pro, I couldn't get so close, and even I got the confirmation of focus on this bee or wasp. I think I'm not sure what it is. You can see it's a bit blurry in comparison to the P60 Pro, which looks like a bit over sharpened for sure, but so much detail there. That you can choose your poison here, which one you like better. If I zoom out, I like the P60 Pro a bit better. Here I think it's a bit too over sharpened. Here it's a bit too soft, so something in between would be nice. And the rest you can see also it's sharpened up for sure. And I could take several shots here and have always the same kind of thing. It looks very nice and impressive, and I think it's a bit of over sharpening on the P60 Pro, but the P60 Pro, when it comes to those insects and very close-up shots like this, wins. So macro capabilities, it's a hard kind of choice for me, but I would pick the P60 Pro ultimately, but it's only by this one point, which is like getting really the autofocus confirmation, and you have really autofocus and it's sharp. And here you get it sometimes on the Xiaomi 13 Pro, it's not sharp. So that is this. Then we have my little dog, of course. You can see nice and sharp here. This also with the zoom lens on both. Here, he was searching for something. Let's go there. We have him as well. You can see he was jumping also in the little lake there because it was so hot, just like all the other people there. And you can just compare again. You can see a warmer color on the P60 Pro, even in the zoom shots. Detail levels on par. This is now 3.5 times zoom versus 3 0.2 times zoom, and you can see a bit of more this like kind of pinkish maybe white going on, because he has this like yeah, it's a male dog, but for some reason we bought this here because it was on sale, and yeah, you can see, yeah, it has like a little bit of pinkish color here that we don't see so much on the P60 Pro. So I think the P60 Pro slightly better in terms of colors there, also a bit in terms of detail levels, but very, very close on both. And another shot, of course. And let's go to this shot. This is 10 times zoom now, again, to see the differences again with those kind of, I think it's ducks, I'm not completely mistaken. You can see not both, especially when they're moving, you can see that it has some inconsistencies there. But when I zoom in here, you can see that, yeah, I think I still prefer the P60 Pro for this kind of shot. Okay, the next shot is the main camera sensor, and here you can see like authentic on the Xiaomi 13 Pro, which I used for all the shots basically, versus P60 Pro's original mode, which both claim to be very authentic and have very accurate colors. What we can see here, especially in the background, is a bit more dynamic range on the P60 Pro. We see a little bit more blue in the sky, where here it's a bit overexposed already. We see also lots of over sharpening on the P60 Pro that gives the impression of a sharper picture, but I like the Xiaomi 13 Pro here a bit better. It's a bit, just like on the other 1-inch size sensors, a bit more realistic looking. When it comes to sharpness and detail here, you can see some people on the lake. You can see a bit sharper on the P60 Pro again due to the over sharpening algorithm there. You can see some other people there in the background, again a bit over sharpened here, again a bit of kind of different colors, a bit darker shadows here, where here it tries to lift the shadows up, especially here on the side you can see it, where you have much more details here in the trees, where you can see much more details in the trees on the P60 Pro, but it is thanks to over sharpening and a bit of HDR, more raising up the shadows, where the Xiaomi 13 Pro keeps it more real. So it's basically choose your poison. I like a little bit better the 13 Pro, even though it's softer than the P60 Pro in this regard. The P60 Pro is, I think, overdoing it a bit with the sharpness here. Nighttime shots, here the P60 Pro is winning. Our Huawei B sensor is keeping the highlights a bit more intact than the Xiaomi 13 Pro, which has a bit of overblown highlights. You cannot really see the color here. You can see the difference between the colors, like this is a more orangey kind of color, red kind of color, and more bluish kind of color, where here it's not really visible. And the detail levels are also here. Look at the tripod lag and the details there. Look at the color here, the difference of this EVA 2020 true wireless headphones case that you don't see here so much. So yeah, the P60 Pro wins there. Selfies, I think also, even though we have 32 megapixels on the Xiaomi 13 Pro, it's quite soft, and yeah, I think the colors are okay-ish. P60 Pro is brightening things up a little bit more, but the sharpness is, yeah, it's a bit over sharpened. It's a bit artificial looking around my eyes, but overall I would prefer the P60 Pro there for the selfies. Still, ultra wide angle, nighttime, you can see much more brightened up here on the P60 Pro. Yes, it's a bit soft and the details are lacking. See my other P60 Pro reviews there, but it's simply too dark on the Xiaomi 13 Pro to see anything there. Otherwise, when it comes to handling dynamic range, both almost on par. Also the bright areas, but you can see like here it captures a bit of the warmth of the aquarium light, that is warm light usually, and the warm lights around in the house. And here it gets towards greenish for some reason, and we can see a bit of pixelation and noise on the Xiaomi 13 Pro, which is definitely not ideal in this regard. Look at around the flower there. And yeah, when we zoom in with the zoom lens, we can see also a big difference here. Here I think the P60 Pro wins a little bit, not on the 3.5 times zoom, but also I think more brighter aperture is helping here with reading a little bit more and having not so much noise. And of course the colors are more pleasant. Here you cannot read anything what's underneath here. Here you can read something of warmth, well-being. So I can see at least a little bit of the font there, of the text. And even if I go to 10 times here, nothing improves there. On both, I would even argue on the P60 Pro it gets worse because I cannot read anything here on the bottom anymore, but it's still better than the Xiaomi 13 Pro. When it comes to zoom shots, so zoom nighttime is the same. Here I have, of course, an aquarium, like I said, and there's some neon fishes here. And here I have to say, with this 3.5 times zoom on the P60 Pro, I can get a bit closer. And on the display, it looked nicer on the P60 Pro for sure. But the Xiaomi 13 Pro is not so far off. It has a bit more noise, but also I think a bit more details here with its 3.2 times zoom, which is quite interesting. Yeah, also I think the whole atmosphere is a bit too brightened up on the Xiaomi, on the P60 Pro here. You can see the Xiaomi much darker here, but much like nicer kind of shot. You know, if I zoom in, a bit more noisy. So yeah, here I like the Xiaomi 13 Pro shot a bit better than the like too brightened up shot on the P60 Pro. So choose your poison. Which one do you like and do you prefer better, the Xiaomi 13 Pro or the P60 Pro? They are definitely both very, very fine and good contenders. I would give the slight edge to the P60 Pro here, simply because the shots of living beings, insects, for example, and the macro photography, I would give the slight edge to the P60 Pro. The Xiaomi 13 Pro is very, very close there, and I think with updates it can even surpass it. But where it cannot surpass the P60 Pro is the zoom capabilities, and this is the main differentiator between them two, because I think with the main camera sensor, both are very, very the same. The P60 Pro a bit over sharpened, the Xiaomi 13 Pro a bit softer, more realistic. Also sometimes with the colors a bit more realistic, where the P60 Pro is more going towards the warmish kind of colors. The Xiaomi 13 Pro tends to go towards the bluish kind of colors, so they meet up somewhere in the middle. So I would say main camera sensors, I prefer the Xiaomi 13 Pro a bit better. Zoom, range and Telemacro capabilities, I prefer the P60 Pro a bit better, and ultra wide angle, they are both almost on par, nothing much of a difference there. So overall, better HDR on the P60 Pro helps also against the Xiaomi 13 Pro. So overall, the P60 Pro takes the win, but it's only by a small margin. And if you take the Xiaomi 13 Pro, you definitely also have an awesome device which is on level, on par with the P60 Pro. Here I would just give the P60 Pro the slight edge. Also, I think in terms of videos and the possibilities there with the zoom as well. So what is your opinion? Write it on the comment section. So what do you think overall? 13 Pro versus P60 Pro, which one is your favorite? It's very, very similar kind of phones, I would say. I think the 1-inch type sensor on the 13 Pro is definitely helping when it comes to exposure, when it comes to photos and so on. But I like the colors that are a bit more realistic on the Huawei in one way or another. But Huawei is also sharpening things up a lot, where the 13 Pro is a more natural for sure. When it comes to telezoom lens, I'm quite surprised because I like the 13 Pro a bit better with its like authentic look, which gives it kind of like a special kind of look, where the Huawei gives also very nice and sharp shots and can get very, very close and detailed there as well. Especially the sharpening algorithms are helping it a lot. But overall, which one is your favorite here? Write it down in the comment section. That's everything for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and until the next time. Bye.